Happy New Year and hello to everybody, and thank you for joining the One Ohio Recovery Foundation February meeting. This is, of course, our first fully virtual meeting this year, and I thank everybody in advance for their patience. And if you have any trouble hearing or reconnecting today, please contact Lori. You can send her a note through our application here. Again, I'm not going to do a roll call just yet, and I'm going to bypass the agenda. But let me just say, for those who are not on the board, you can always remember to send us an email at info@oneohiofoundation.com if you have something for us today. So again, I'm going to jump around on our format right now. We can't do the approval of the agenda or the meeting minutes, but let's go to our mission moment, if we could. And from Region 7, board member Victor DePrill, we have Dwayne Piccarelli to share his story. Dwayne, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here. Okay, well, thank you, and thank you for highlighting Victor. He's on our Region 7 committee. He was on our board evaluation committee, and his son actually was on the mental health and recovery board of directors for a while as our person living with addiction and recovery. So this is Victor's story. Today we have the opportunity to hear the story of a regional board member and an Ohioan whose family has been tremendously impacted by the opiate crisis. Victor DePerl served as a board member and grant reviewer for Region 7, which encompasses Trumbull and Mahoning County. Story of Victor's family began when his son, nicknamed Pal, was a sophomore in high school. As a freshman, Pal was a starter on his high school varsity golf team. But during his sophomore year, he was ineligible to play due to poor grades. Victor called the coach believing there had been some sort of mistake or misunderstanding. However, it turned out that Pell had changed the grades on his report card before showing it to his father. This was the first indication to Victor that something was wrong and that his son was engaged in more than just typical teenage activities. In the years following the first incident, Pell received several DUIs, and Victor tried to help him avoid severe penalties. Along the way, his drinking and drug use got worse, with opiate being his drug of choice. After Pell was arrested for robbery, a mutual friend got Victor involved in a 12-step program for family members and friends. As Victor began attending recovery support groups, he found them very impactful. In one incident, Victor had missed a couple of meetings, and at the next meeting he attended, he learned that one of the group leaders had just lost her son to a fatal overdose. This was an eye opener for Victor, seeing there was very real consequences to addiction and how they can affect individuals and their families. Victor attendance at the support group uh, did not mark the end of Pal's drug use. It did, however, give Victor an opportunity to do these things differently and apply them as he learned through the support group. When his son was arrested again for yet another robbery, Victor did not work to get Pal released as he had before. He spent 12 days in jail. It was incredibly difficult for Victor and his family, but he felt he did the right thing. Through attendance of the support group and the impact on his family, Victor recognized Pell entering into recovery would require him to shift his thinking and respond differently when his son was arrested. Pell was released for an inpatient recovery center for 90 days and pled into drug court. After 90 days of treatment and nearly a year in drug court program, Pell graduated from drug court with honors. He continues to work with a sponsor for 12-step program, and he has become a sponsor himself. Powell is now in long-term recovery. He owns his own business, a wife, and three children. Through his experience with his son, Victor realizes addiction is a disease that is disrupting the entire family. Pal needed access to services and family support in order to become sober and maintain his sobriety. Watching Pal's access to services uh, is the main reason Victor wants to be a part of Region 7. Victor views his service on Region 7 as a privilege. He looks forward to continue serving the community. Victor wants to thank you for letting him share his family story. And I will say that Victor actually, when we did our levy a few years ago, and there was an increase, Victor was one of the people that did the advertisement for our levy, and it was very impactful and helped us pass our levy. So on behalf of his family, thank you.
Well, thank you, Dwayne. And again, we look forward to hearing more of these stories and learning about each of our grantees each month during our mission moments. So let me go back. We now have a quorum. So at this point, I'll go back to the top of the agenda and ask Lori to do a roll call. I realize we have indications here we can see visually, but let's have the formality of a roll call then.
Director Bruce. Director Amen.
Here.
Director Whiston.
Here.
Director Handrew. Director Mason.
Here.
Director Mayer.
Here.
Director Powell. Director St. John.
Here.
Director Worsbicky.
Here.
Director Dodge.
Here.
Director Driehaus.
Here.
Director Hohaddle.
Here.
Director Tyler Lee.
Here.
Director Mattia.
I'm here.
Director Piccirilli.
Here.
Director Greta Johnson.
Here.
Director Silac. Director Gregoire.
Here.
Director Kidd.
Here.
Director Lee. Director White.
Here.
Director Radcliffe. Director Royson.
Here.
Director Baker. Director Claymeyer.
Here.
Director Terry Johnson. Director Phil Plummer.
Thank you. We have a quorum. So let's go ahead at this point in time. I want to take a moment to thank Region 19 appointee Matt Olds for his service. He has informed us he'll be stepping down from his position, but we wish the very best for Commissioner Old. So we also want to welcome Scotty Powell to the board as the Region 9 non-metro appointee. Scotty has been the chair of the Region 9 board up till now, and we'd like to thank him for his service. Scotty, are you online with us, and can you say a few words about your background?
He is not on the line yet, but he
I
should
just got
be.
on.
Oh,
Thanks so
perfect
much.
timing, Scotty.
Perfect timing. Yes. Hello, everyone. My name is Scotty Powell, Scioto County Commissioner for 4 years. Outside of being a commissioner, I'm a healthcare executive. Been in the nursing home industry. I'm currently in the hospice world, running a hospice for half the state of Ohio, Buckeye Hospice. Really interested on serving on this board. Appreciate the opportunity. You know, we view our area as the epicenter of the opioid epidemic, and to be able to elevate our voice and our experience to this board is critical for us. So I'm excited to be a part of the team.
Well, thank you again and welcome. So our first order of business then is the agenda approval. Does anybody have any proposed edits to today's agenda? And if not, then is there a motion and a second to approve the agenda as written and provided?
So moved.
I believe that was Michael.
Yes.
Second by Amen.
Thank you. We have a motion duly seconded for approval of the agenda. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against? And the motion carries. So the agenda is accepted as written. We actually also have the minutes, the draft minutes from our November board meeting. Again, it'd be nice to have a motion to approve and a second for those minutes of the November meeting.
Worsbicky, I'll make that motion.
Kid second.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion to approve the minutes? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the motion carries. So moving right ahead, we now have our executive director's report, and I turn that over to Alicia at this time.
Well, Happy New Year, and I am pleased to say, to start off our report on a good note, today was our last grant award Wednesday because we have signed contracts and awarded all of the grantees that we will award for the 2024 grant round. And so I know you all can't see it, but I'm clapping for the folks and the grant team in the back of the room. I know that was a Herculean effort to get those grantees awarded, and we want to walk through some of the data related to that. But before we do, I just want to say, I think one of the things that we're most proud of for today's announcement, and it wasn't intended to be this way, but it ended up being a positive moment, that the awards today are really supporting children and families impacted by addiction. And what a nice way to kind of round out the last few of our grantees by recognizing these groups across the state who are really focused on those kiddos and their families who have been impacted. And so we are really proud of the work that we have done in partnership with you, and would love to share a little bit more, not only about those grantees that were announced today, but overall kind of what we saw and what we're looking at as we continue to partner with these organizations moving forward. So if you can go to the next slide, I'll tell you a little bit more about what happened. And so as you remember, way back when, we received over 1,400 applications requesting over $500 million, $500 million. And at that point in time, I think we all were just, I think stunned maybe is a word to use there at the need that we saw across the state, and the sheer response that we had was one to remember. Through our regions and the partnership with all of you, we were able to award 245 of those applications, and really support over 200 organizations across the state. I'm actually at a loss because I don't have our notes at the bottom of the screen, but Laura, can you share a little bit more about what we know about these organizations just at a high level?
Yes, we had 202 organizations make up these 245 awards. So there are 9% of the funded organizations have a project in multiple regions. I'm also trying to pull up our talking points. Sorry, Alicia. 17% of the applications that we received were funded. 26% of organizations that applied were funded. And then, as I said, 9% are represented in multiple regions.
Thank you. And hopefully we will continue to learn more. I know we have a lot of data that we want to share with you at a future meeting that we'll start to go through with our grant oversight committee at our first meeting with them, that we will continue to bring more information about these grantees. But if we can go to the next slide, I think this kind of showcases where the funds went. And so this is funded grants by abatement strategy. So you can see that there is a strong support for recovery related applications. 32% of our grantees were focused on recovery supports, 21% on prevention. We have strong support for a number of other areas. These, I think, are just the tip of the iceberg when we think about who we funded and for what. I will say, a lot of these grants could be categorized a number of different ways. And so this is just the primary categorization that the grantees selected. However, we know that there are grants that are workforce related, that bring in peers, that support impacted kids and families. And so, this is just to give you a feel for the grants, understanding that we will come back to you with more ways to view, slice and dice, and really understand who we're funding across the state and the support we're offering across the regions. And so we wanted to give you a sample here, and we look forward to continuing to partner with our organizations across the state to just really understand what that impact will be. If we go to the next slide. Every year we do also try to bring to you an update from a communications perspective. We thought this would be a good time as we look at 2024 and wrap up that year and look forward to 2025 to just give you an update on some of the things that we have encountered when it comes to, really working with the great folks in the media who really work to provide transparent coverage of what we have going on here at the foundation. So I'm going to flip through these slides. They will be in your packet. I won't read these word for word per se, but just to give you a high level overview. If you could go to the next slide, Andy. We really had a number of priorities going into last year. And I think they focused on, making sure that we were good partners with the media to educate Ohioans, successfully launch our first ever grant process, and really make sure that people knew the opportunity was available. And by the number of applications we received, I think that we did a good job there. And really making sure that we have connections with the groups across the state to really start to build relationships. So if you go to the next slide, based on those priorities, we put together a plan that included all of us, right? I know many of you were a part of an op-ed or a newsletter or perhaps even a speaking engagement last year. So thank you for that. We will continue to do that in 2025. But just to share some of the results that we saw from that, let's go to the next few slides. From our collective work, we earned over 1,200 media hits with a publicity value of over 25 million. And I'm going to pause here and just say that, this is not typical of a nonprofit organization. We took a look at some of our sister foundations. We took a look at even some of our state agencies and other groups to just see how we compare from a media perspective. And by far, this is leaps and bounds more than most have ever seen in terms of media engagement. And so we're really proud of that. That really means that we have good relationships with the media, that the work is getting out there, and we are really trying to, improve that transparency by working with the media in this way. We had, I think, the other place that I think we've been watching pretty closely, given our history, had 98% positive or neutral coverage. And I think that number has increased greatly due to the partnership with all of you and the expertise of Convista Communications. So we're really, really proud of that. If we go to the next slide, and I can't believe I missed the top line. Go back one time. The top line, 2.3 billion impressions. I guess that should say a lot about this, and I almost missed that one in the header there. Go to that next slide, Andy. Just more about some of the work that we did. Again, this will be in your board packet area so that you can take a look at this more closely, along with the articles themselves. If you're curious and want to kind of read how we've engaged and what at the national, statewide, or local level folks have been saying about our foundation and the work that we're doing, that is in your that will be in your materials as well after the meeting. All right, we'll go, I think, one more slide. I think that does it. And then we continue to really support a number of events. One of the events that I think I wanted to highlight just happened a couple weeks ago and is on our website. Now we had our first Impact Academy session of the year really supporting grant writing in general and making sure that those who are interested in our grants also knew about opportunities of grants available across the country. I believe, Sarah, you may know the number. I don't have that number to quote off the top of my head, but we had a good showing at that Impact Academy.
Yes, we had over 500 people tune in live.
Yeah, so I think that just speaks to, again, we're building really good relationships with the community. When, you know, we have opportunities, those opportunities are well received, and we will continue to build out that Impact Academy series this year. Sarah and her team are leading that work. So if you have ideas for Impact Academy sessions, please let us know. We're trying to make sure we're putting relevant information out to the field, out to those who need it. And so we'll continue to do that through our partnerships. I think that is all of the slides. Oh, yeah, another one there. 65% open rate. I'll just point that out. I've been told that that is a very high open rate, so people want our information. But I'll share this after the meeting today, so you can take another look. Okay. With that said, I just wanted to make sure that I hit everything. I think we are good. So thank you, Chair, for the opportunity to present. We'll bring more information to you as we get it.
Thank you very much, Alicia. Now we'll hear reports from each of our committees, beginning with the Executive Committee. But before I speak to the Executive Committee's work this year, I first want to take a moment to emphasize how important the committees are to the work of the foundation, and many of you, of course, serve on committees. I encourage each of you to consider membership on those committees you want. Remember, the chair does not appoint membership to the committees. You actually volunteer. Just let us know which ones you want to serve on. And remember that all committees are about the dialogue that happens within each of the committees. So please consider, again, the membership. As the chair of the Executive Committee, we take pride in our role to act on behalf of the board when the board is not in session, and we limit our actions to the Code of Regulations. We currently meet monthly, and we're working to bring updates to the entire board with regard to our Code of Regulations, so we can provide, again, more clarity on committee membership, board terms, and much, much more. But now I'd like to hear from the chairman. Do you want me to cover that? Or no? Okay, now we'd like to hear from the chairman of the Audit and Finance Committee, which is Evan Kleemeyer, and the foundation CFO, Jim Quinn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm honored to represent the Audit and Finance Committee. It has been a while since I've come to this board and asked if you would be interested in joining the Audit and Finance Committee. A lot of what we do is focusing on budget setting, managing the finances of the foundation, our annual audit, and our 990 tax filing. We do have some business before the board, but again, I will put another plug in there. If you are interested in joining, we could really use some members of the board to help us in our efforts. Jim, maybe I'll throw it over to you first to cover the amendment to the budget.
I'll take that, Jim, if you don't mind. If we can go to some of the next slides, just as background, this material will be in so you can get a feel for what the Audit and Finance Committee does and the dates. If you can keep going, Andy, through the slides. And then next up, I think, is the amendment. There we go. One more. We are proud to partner with the team at Mighty Crow and JG on our research and grant evaluation. Per our policy, we set a budget that you all approved at the end of last year. If after we receive our quotes, the budget is exceeding a 10% threshold for any one line item, not particularly for any one contract, but one line item, we need to bring that matter to the full board. So we wanted to talk a little bit about the work that Mighty Crow and the JG research team will be doing for us. As you have seen, we have 245 grants that we will be managing, and through the support of Mighty Crow and JG, we will have robust evaluation measures to go along with that to make sure that our money is going to what we hoped it would go to, and that we can report out the outcomes from those investments. And so those outcomes will really be in a number of buckets. So you look here, you see scope and coverage, understanding really the composition of the grant and what the activities were within it, whether or not the organizations are managing the grants appropriately and the funds are used based on the stated goals of the grant. We're going to be looking at quality and the characteristics of the grant to make sure that we can really help them drive towards quality improvement, provide any technical assistance, which is a major part of this partnership with Mighty Crow and JG. What we know about our grantees is they vary in their expertise as it relates to receiving grant funds. Some of our organizations are receiving grant funds for the first time, and we're really proud to partner with them, but also want to make sure that we can have the capacity to provide technical assistance when those grantees may need it. And so a portion of this contract will be to support those ongoing technical assistance needs of our grantees to make sure that they can get the data in, understand our data dictionary, and kind of those numerators and denominators that really make up the evaluation plan that we've set forth for all grantees. And that's a reminder to say, too, that all grantees will be a part of this. And then finally, from a transparency perspective, Mighty Crow and JG will be working with us. I believe the next slide kind of speaks to some of the transparency elements of the reporting system. If it's in there, Andy, there we go. As a part of this contract, and these are just examples, this is not real data or real information or even information related to us. They will be building a number of Power BI dashboards for us with a couple things in mind. Our staff view, what we need to really monitor and evaluate the work and make payments. We also will have a view for the board, for you all to see a statewide view of how our regions are doing, and then kind of on an abatement level, what is happening within each abatement strategy and more. And then we'll have perhaps regional views that look more closely at what's happening within a particular county, especially for our multi-region counties. So we're really excited to partner with them to do this work and work with the Audit and Finance Committee to get their recommendation this morning to move this forward, and are now asking for you all to approve the budget amendment to increase the grant line item by $165,000 to accommodate for this work for 2025.
And Alicia, I would just add that the Audit and Finance Committee met this morning, recommends a budget line item increase for this. We did talk through ways to keep the cost down and some negotiation with the two third parties. So I guess at the moment, I would make the motion to increase the budget line item up to $165,000.
Is there a second to the motion?
This is
Where's
Dawn
Vicky?
Tyler Lee. I'll second.
Second.
Okay, I got Don Tyler Lee on the second to the motion. Is there a discussion on the motion of increasing the line item for the reasons enumerated by Alicia by $165,000?
Is this Dave Mattia? Is this under grant professional development, or I'm looking at the operations budget that was provided in the materials for 2024?
Grant support, the grant support system. In the grant support system. So for the
Right.
2025 budget, we approved a grant support budget line. Those other two lines are underneath that and weren't part of the approval process. So it would have been the grant support system.
So how much of an increase is this?
From 150 to 315.
That's a surprise.
Well, as enumerated, there were a lot more applicants, a lot more grants, recipients than I believe originally anticipated under the 150,000 number. So
And
this
this
is more
is really
realistic.
doing evaluation, not just approval. So the evaluation and seeing effect of the grants is actually a key thing that this will be doing. That is different from just the approval, Judge.
No, I understand.
Michael, thank you.
I just kind of wonder how we're so surprised, or they're charging us by the number of grants. And we didn't anticipate there'd be so many grants, or this is a big increase.
I think what we realized as a part of the process too, I think is important that we talked about this morning is one of the bigger elements of this increase is technical assistance. And with a staff of 2 folks in our grant support team, we wanted to make sure that we offered as much technical assistance to the nonprofit groups that perhaps maybe this is going to be their first time using the grant. The contract is for an up to amount for those, for that technical assistance. And we did discuss this morning that it would be important to have a process to make sure that we're monitoring, how quickly we spend down those funds throughout the year. But this is really kind of a extender, I think, too, of staff to support the work of monitoring the grants and providing technical assistance.
Maybe to amplify a little bit of what you just said, Alicia, we believe it is important to have resources for our smaller grantees in order to help them. These companies will work directly with the grantees to help them to report to us the results. Certainly we have given money and will give money to larger, more sophisticated organizations who know how to do this, who regularly report the results. But in order for us to get a whole picture of what our money is doing and the impact we're having, we think this is a good investment in order to get that data from all grantees, not just the ones who are used to doing it, the larger, more sophisticated grantees.
Very good explanations. All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, then I'll call the question. All those in favor of the motions signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? And the motion carries. Thank you. Now move on to the next item under this committee reports of the unaudited 2024.
2024. Good morning. Today we'll review the final 2024 budget and cash balance reports, as well as the 2024 regional grant budget status through January 31st of 2025. Move on to the next slide. So the budget, let's recap for a second what the budget report shows. So down the left-hand side of the report, there are budget items. Those budget items are totaled by the operating budget and the program budget. Across the top of the report is the budget column, which includes all those amendments or the original budget and all the amendments approved by the board. December expenses are in the next column. Year-to-date expenses are then totaled in the next column. The year-to-date balances equal the budget less the year-to-date expenses, and the percentage at the end is the percentage of money from the original budget that is still remaining. At the end of 24, the foundation spent $1.8 million, or 72% of the approved budget. That breaks into $1.3 million for the operating budget and a little more than $500,000 for the program budget. The largest portion of the program budget is the grant support budget that we just talked about. The grant support budget spent $320,000 in 2024, or around 89% of the funds budgeted. Any questions or comments on this report?
If I could speak again, what is the State Fair partnership?
I'm happy to speak to that. I think, I forget which month it was. I know the state fair happens around August, July, August. We had an opportunity to partner with the Nationwide Foundation, who leads the Beat the Stigma campaign. They asked us to work with them for the state fair to manage the booth, and in connection with that, we were able to really go to the fair and be represented and talk a lot about One Ohio, what we do, and the work that we'll do across the state. So they gave us the grant funding to be at the state fair through a grant of $150,000 with that cost at about 109, as you see there.
All right, Andy, you can move on. You can move on to the next slide.
Before we move on,
Cash balance.
I do have one quick question. This is for, and I should probably already know this, is One Ohio on a state fiscal year, or is this a calendar year? So when we're looking at these percentages, is this 100% of the way through the year or 50% of the way through the year?
We're on the calendar year, so this is 100% of the way through the year. This is the final budget report for 24.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, next slide. Next slide is our cash balance report. Down the left-hand side, it shows the multiple funding sources. The balance across the top of balance as of November 30th. The changes for the month of December, the balance at the end of December, and then the amounts that are in each of our banks. So at the end of the year, the foundation had a little bit more than $235 million in cash, which comprises of a change of $1.1 million for December. That change includes $1.8 million in grant payments that were made in December, around $200,000 in operating costs, which are the MOU operating the unrestricted funds, and around $860,000 in interest earned. Any questions about this? All right, Andy, you can move on to the next one. This report includes all the activity against the 2024 regional grant cycle. So you will see this report for the next 3 years. This will track through that allocation, which ended up being the budget of $51 million. And so down the left-hand side, each of the regions is represented, and across the top is the budget for each of those regions. The next column are the announced awards. So those are the awards that have been signed, negotiated, signed, agreed to, and announced on Wednesday. So today we announced the last group of those awards, right? Similar to the budget report, the previous budget report, we include the January payment is the next column, the total paid, and then the balance of the awards. The balance of the awards is the announced award amount less the total amount paid, and then the percentage of those budgets that are remaining. So you can see at the end of January, we have announced $41.7 million in awards with the total payments of $6.6 million paid through January. We have issued just a little bit more than $2 million more in payments this month. Payments, just a note around payments. Payments are issued twice a year. So the initial payment gets staged out over a period, and then from that point forward, it will be issued twice a year, with 5% being held back for the final payment. Granny's first installments are paid after the start date, so we don't pay till we reach the start date. We do have start dates that are March and April and I think May. And banking data is returned and confirmed. So once they complete all that, then the first installments go out. Are there any questions on this report?
Okay. Well, then at that point, we'll just need a motion to approve the unaudited 2024 year-end budget report and the January 2025 unaudited financial reports. Is there a motion?
So moved, so moved.
Oh, sorry. I'll do a second.
I'll second it.
Greta, Mayor, and Worsbicky.
Okay, Greta, Mayor, and then Jeanette, I believe we have. All right. Those are our winners. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the motion carries. Well, thank you again, Evan and Jim. Next, I'd like to turn to the chair of the investment committee, Jim White.
Oh, Jim, you're on mute.
You're still on mute. Jim, you're still on mute.
Yeah, sorry about that. Hello, everyone. Not a real, big update right now, in terms of what's going on. As Jim kind of went through, we've got a considerable amount of cash in the bank that we're trying to manage, appropriately for the organization. We've had several meetings over the last, or I guess a couple of meetings over the last 2 weeks, conference calls with KeyBank, who's right now is kind of the major provider of kind of banking services for us, and they're managing our cash. We are getting to a point where we're getting large amounts of cash in, and some of the programs that we have the funds invested will not be appropriate for those programs, or we're going to have to look at some alternative solutions to manage the cash, whether it be moving it into some sort of a treasury type function, treasury management type function. I guess the big thing I'm sorry. The big thing that the committee really has to, I guess, think about, over the next several months is what are we going to do with some of these funds, and moving them out of some of these cash alternatives into other investments, treasuries, etc. But longer term, where do we want to head as an organization with respect to investments that want to be made kind of longer term, and what dollars are going to be allocated? And it's really hard for us as an investment committee to develop kind of a longer term investment policy statement when we don't know exactly what we're going to be investing for kind of the long term. So we're working on, we actually have a meeting after this, and a meeting tomorrow to kind of talk about this, and we'll come back to, I think, the full board at the March meeting to kind of discuss where we are. I'm fairly new so far to the organization. I started back in October, so I know enough to be dangerous, but I know that Jim had presented some really interesting work that KeyBank had done for us in terms of just how we leverage our dollars for kind of the long term versus spending the money as it comes in, if you will. So we're going to present some things, I think, in March for the board to consider, because we continue to kind of bounce around this idea of what do we want to be, what do we want to be, what kind of organization do we want to be in terms of how we're setting and allocating money out, and what's the timing of that. And that's really important for us as an investment committee to kind of understand where the board is, and make some commitments so we can kind of move forward with how we're going to invest the dollars.
Thank you, Jim. Are there any questions for Jim at this time, and as chair of the investment committee? Okay, hearing none, then I'll move to the chair of the Grant Oversight Committee, Tom Gregoire.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome back. Happy New Year. As we've heard, I'm chair of the Grant Oversight Committee. We've got a few slides up there that, so there's our policy, and that policy is available on our website too, if you're wondering how we work. As you know, this has been a big year for our entire group and for the grant committee. So I just want to highlight a few accomplishments over the year. As you already heard, we worked with the staff to develop a 2024 request for proposals, RFP, and got that out. I would observe, and we've already referenced it briefly, I continue to be slightly shocked that 3 staff did all of this. And it's just really impressive that the level of work that went into pulling this off. We reviewed and approved over 240 grant recommendations from the regions, and I couldn't discuss the work of last fall without acknowledging the considerable work of our expert panel. And, you know, by the way, Sarah, whoever's running slides, you got more slides for me, just flip them along. I wasn't going to really review the policy per se. Anyway, we reviewed, as I said, 240 grant recommendations from the regions. Our expert panel, which is 6 members, I believe, reviewed all of those. And I was really impressed in our debrief meeting with how hard they worked to support programs. We entered this process with the understanding that some of the people we fund are going to be very sophisticated in how to work with this, how to write a grant, and that's great. And we also wanted to be able to, through the staff and the committee and the expert panel, create a process that didn't exclude somebody who had a really good idea and a really good difference they were going to make and maybe didn't know everything they needed to know to do this well. And I think we worked hard to accommodate that. You heard that 500 people showed up to Sarah's effort recently. That work's continuing. So thank you to the staff, the expert panel, and of course the mighty Grant Oversight Committee. As you heard, we're taking time to look at the data and a lot of time to hear feedback from our grantees. You know, how did this go? How can we make it better, and what have you? Our committee's going to, I think, Lori, you and I are going to get on the phone, and instead of playing email tag, and we are going to find a time to meet in early March, and then you see our intended calendar going forward. I would say we have 2 open positions on the committee, and while you have many committee options, we're kind of a fun group too. We'd love to have you join us if you feel your schedule can support pretty consistent attendance. We're a busy bunch, and maintaining a quorum is important to us, but we don't waste your time either. When you come in, we work and have an impact, make a difference. I don't know what the plan was. Alicia, you might jump in. If someone is interested, or I'm happy to talk to anybody if you want to hear more about it. But if you're interested in volunteering for this committee, we do have 2 openings. Should they let Don, you know, or Alicia, or just me directly? What do you prefer?
I would say any of the 3 of us, Tom.
Okay. All right. So we'll collect names before we commit to them. But it's important work. It's important to have the voices of many of the regions represented, and that is my report. We're going to dive in and, as I said, learn from the process in March and plan for our next. And I'm happy to field any questions.
Well, if there are no questions, and it's almost like at a bid, going once, twice, 3 times, then I'll move on to the next committee report. Thank you so much, Tom.
Thank you,
So our next committee report is from the chair of the Personnel Committee, Julie Amon. Good morning, Julie.
Well, good morning, everyone. I'm one of the lucky individuals who's no video this morning, so this is probably for the better. So I'm the chair of the Personnel Committee, and as Don has mentioned, the Personnel Committee would love to have more members, so don't all jump on Tom's committee because the Personnel Committee needs members too. We had a few accomplishments over the last year. and we worked to develop the foundation's first personnel handbook. We put together the benefit structure for our staff, discussing issues such as life insurance and mundane issues like vacation policy and things like that. We worked to build out the key foundation staff as needs arose, and we'll continue to monitor the staffing needs, whether we need more staff, what all their roles are, and work with Alicia on that. Our goals for 2025 are continue to review those staffing needs. As you noted, as the more than 200 grants are administered, processed, and followed, and we've got the agency to help us and guide us through that, but our team still has to be able to be on hand for that. We're going to follow up on some benefits that we didn't firm down, such as 401ks and disability. We're going to work on employee training schedules and priorities, and determine the best next steps for One Ohio to be designated a recovery-friendly workplace. Alicia and I have determined that that's a goal for us, and we'd really like to move forward on that. And we'd love people's input on putting together that sort of policy.
Question.
Yes, Dave.
Do we have a contract yet, a written contract with Ms. Nelson, our executive director?
We had an offer that was given to her. I believe we have a contract with Alicia.
You want to speak to it?
I don't know.
We can definitely follow up on this. At this point, I have an offer letter as a part of what we're operating off of.
Okay, thanks.
We'll go to work on that though, David.
You'd be a great person on the committee.
I'm already with you on the grant committee, Julie.
Oh, and the dates up there are our tentative meeting dates. So it's not a heavy lift, but it's an important lift to take care of the people that work for One Ohio.
Well, thank you. And as everybody has heard now for the last few minutes, a lot of work is happening at the committee level. So we thank our committee chairs for their commitment to our work. We now move to the next item on our agenda, item 7, which is new business. Now, at the opening of the meeting, I did ask if there was any agenda additions. I did not hear any. I believe that's still the case at this point. But is there any new business or announcements that need to be brought before the board? Then hearing none, remember our next meeting then is March 12th. This is in person, 10:30 or 12:30 at the State Library of Ohio. But again, if you cannot make it here, we will have the video capability, and I would certainly hope that again, who knows what the weather's going to be like in Ohio in March. But please, if safety is an issue, please avail yourself of the video linkage. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'm sorry, can I ask a question about the next meeting?
Go ahead, Denise.
Yeah, Denise Streethouse. It is my understanding that when we're in person next month, we are going to talk about the allocation formula moving forward. And we just heard from the investment committee about their desire for that at the grant. I'm going to speak, well, let me speak for Region 2. We're also anxious to get the second round moving and know that we need to get this conversation under our belts related to the formula. So that's my understanding. I just wanted to verify that.
And that is my understanding also, yes.
Great, thank you.
But if you, I'm dead serious, if you would like to serve on either the budget committee or the investment committee, Denise, just let those chairs know.
Well, I'm on the grant committee, so.
Okay. Okay. I just wanted to give you that opportunity also, but yes, ma'am. Well then, is there a motion to adjourn?
Gregoire, so moved.
By Tom, seconded by Michael Rosen. By Michael. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? And the motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank everybody. Have a safe month and see you next month.